Ready? All right. I just want to thank you all for coming out today. My name is Sean Ward, Sean L. Ward. I have to put the L in there because that's what's going to be on the ballot. And I just wanted to thank you all. Hold on one second. Turn that up a little bit. Turn the other one down a little bit, the mic volume. Okay. All right. All right, so again, I just wanted to thank you all for coming out. I just want to have a few words with you all, and then we're gonna take some questions, and then we're going to give you some food over there. We're gonna have lunch, and some of you may have seen me because through from maybe November through March, I think it was, we were delivering food up here 3 times a week. I was the one leaving the meals.
And I was the one saying thank you.
Yes, you did. She said to me, actually, if no one else says it to you, I just want to tell you thank you. So you all are very welcome. And when that program kicks off again, we'll still be doing that. But I do that under my other organization, the East Cleveland Growth Association. So, you know, that's a different thing. But I wanted to come up here and I want to talk to you all, and I want to kind of learn a little bit about the things that you go through. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 1983 graduate of Shaw High School. I played football for Shaw, wrestled for Shaw. My family came to East Cleveland in 1972. I went to Prospect Elementary and Kirk, of course, before going to Shaw. I started an organization about 3 years ago with Curtis, my campaign manager over there, called the East Cleveland Growth Association. And what we were trying to do was kind of raise the economic structure of East Cleveland. We wanted to increase the tax base, we wanted to introduce new business to East Cleveland, and we wanted to bring new jobs and new retail establishments to the city. And in working towards those ends, we came across a lot of obstacles just in the structure of the city. And also, we found that there were a lot of unnecessary barriers to doing business in East Cleveland. We also started to learn about some of the things that the residents were going through, and through all of those things, all of those discussions, all of those meetings, we decided that really the only way to change the fortune of East Cleveland is to change the people who are running East Cleveland. And so I've decided to run for mayor in the upcoming election. Now, primarily, I'm focusing on 3 major pillars to kind of move the city forward. I've given you all a handout, and you have a card, and on the back of that card, I think there are about 21 points to my campaign platform. And if you are able to go to my website, which is slaward4ecmayor.org, you can see the detail behind those 21 items. But mainly, my focus is going to be on these 3 things. It's going to be on public safety and public safety forces. It's going to be on economic growth and development. And it's going to be around building a 21st century infrastructure. Yes. Now let me start off with the infrastructure piece, because that I want you to understand. We all pretty much understand what we're talking about with economic growth and with safety, but we want to talk about that too. But I want you to understand about infrastructure, because a lot of people, when they talk about infrastructure, they think you're just talking about the roads and the bridges and things like that. And that's true, right? That's part of the infrastructure. And that's a major part of what we need to fix here. But we can't just depend on paving the roads when they get so bad that they need more than paving. And what's happened here is that the administrations have gotten us into this habit of kind of settling for what we can get. So what happens is they don't do anything for a long period of time, then they pave a couple of streets, and that looks like progress to us. Because there's been no progress for so long, even the littlest activity says to somebody something's happening. But that's not really progress, right? That's pacification. What they've done is they put a pacifier in our mouths like we're children, and then they've said to us, we'll get to the rest of it when you start to cry again. We've got to change that. The other thing we talk about around infrastructure are the things that kind of make our lives easier, make our lives more convenient, like high-speed internet, like street lights, simple things like street lights, like public services, parks and recreation, all those things that make East Cleveland livable, that people take pride in, and it makes people call East Cleveland home. Freedoms, right? Freedoms, right?
Air conditioning.
Freedoms, economic freedom.
Yes.
Right? How you doing, brother? Economic freedoms.
Yes.
The freedom to move about your neighborhood and feel safe as you're moving through your neighborhood.
Family.
Right? The freedom to go visit family, to go move around,
Yes.
to go and congregate. All of those things, right? All those things used to be hallmarks in East Cleveland. They used to be what East Cleveland was built around. So infrastructure is not just the roads, but roads are a major part of infrastructure. But we also need to make sure we talk about tree lawns. We need to talk about cutting trees down when they're getting too old. We need to talk about planting new trees. Because, trees aren't just beautiful, they also provide benefit to the environment. Sure.
How do we get in touch with somebody to cut that shit down across the street?
Thank you,
See, and that's just it, right? There should be a department in City Hall that you should be able to call, and they should be able to respond to that,
They
right?
don't have a Parks and Recreation?
Right.
They got one on the record, but they don't actually have anybody working it, right? So if you ask them if they have a Parks and Recs department, they'll tell you yes.
But nobody's in there.
Nah, because all that stuff kind of runs together, Parks and Rec Service Department. But those are separate things. They are separate departments.
Yes.
Because those things require separate attention. And that's why one of the things that we're going to do when we're elected is we're going to stand up a call center in City Hall. And we're going to cross-train operators to be able to deal with any resident call. So they're not just passing you to the next person in the department. They're actually being able to handle your call and give you a resolution. And if they can't, they're giving you a schedule around when somebody will be able to resolve it. So you're not going to be sitting wondering when somebody's going to come and get back to you.
We do that here. If we get locked out, we got to call the office. If they working, we just stuck till they come.
Right. You can't have a building this big without on-premises management. You got to have at least a superintendent with a pass key that can get you guys in here.
Yes.
And I also understand through our discussion that there's no security here.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right? For the amount of people that live here and the amount of rent that they probably collect, there's no way they shouldn't be able to provide security here.
Okay.
They had a door locked though. They got the door locked. They care about that.
Well, yeah, because if the door is not locked, there's liability, right? They're liable if that door is not locked, so they'd have to pay.
We ain't got security. Why had the door locked?
Because they don't have to pay if if they leave that door open, somebody goes to your house and breaks into your house.
It's gonna happen regardless.
They may just get renters insurance. They don't
that's
replace it.
right. But if they leave that door open, that's negligence, and so they become responsible. If they keep that door locked, then the responsibility to keep your place safe is yours. And they can say, well, we did what we were supposed to do. We kept the door locked. Even if somebody leaves the door open, right, as long as the lock is not broken, they're going to say to you, we provided a lock. Somebody here left the door open. That's not our fault, right? So it's all about accountability, because their accountability costs them money. Your accountability could cost you your property, could cost you your safety, could cost you your life. So that's not an acceptable answer. That's not an acceptable response to not have security here. The other thing is economic growth and development, right? We need money. But we don't need to just keep asking people and organizations for money. We need that too. But we need to be able to make our own money. We need industry here. When my family came to East Cleveland in 1972, there were like 5 car dealerships here, 3 grocery stores.
Yes.
The hotels really had people come and stay here, and not whatever goes on in the day.
Right.
So, there was a need for those kinds of things. Today, you can't justify having 3 hotels in East Cleveland. Why are there 3 hotels in East Cleveland?
People don't even go there.
Well, somebody goes there. The question is, what goes on when they get there?
Right.
I was talking about this yesterday. There was recently a guy that was arrested on rape charges, and he had done multiple rapes. And he brought one victim to the hotel up on the corner of Lee and Euclid.
Wow.
And left her there after he raped her. And she called somebody to come get her. Now, when they caught him at the off-ramp at Eddie Road, which says to me that he was probably on his way.
Yes.
And they caught him with another victim.
Yes.
They caught him with another woman in the car. So it says to me that he was on his way back to that hotel.
Right.
So we got to get rid of that stuff, and we got to get businesses in East Cleveland that make money and that provide jobs.
Yes.
Now, we got to be ready for those jobs when they come, which means that we need to provide some kind of training, right? So that when jobs come, people are ready to get them.
Yes.
And so we also want to get retail here because we want the money to stay here once it gets here, right? If I get a dollar and then I go up to Cleveland Heights and spend that dollar has no value to East Cleveland.
Right.
I need to spend that dollar in East Cleveland. But if East Cleveland doesn't have the things I want to spend my dollars on, then I have no choice but to go somewhere else.
The point on that, spending your money in East Cleveland, they don't, what I'm trying to say, they don't appreciate us doing that. Like if I go to the store and I need 10 cents on something, they won't let me get it. You know what I'm saying? So why should I spend my money here?
Well, that's a different issue, and that's about customer service, right? And so you have to start to build relationships with the customers.
I try to.
But you can't really regulate how people give credit, right? Because that's really what that's about, right? Someone is 10 cents short. What we really should do is, kind of be more community oriented about it. So when they have those penny things up there, don't always be the one to take the penny. Sometimes leave the penny.
Yes. Yes.
Or leave a dime, or leave a quarter, or leave a nickel.
Yes.
Right? Or if you're in line behind someone and someone is short a dime or a dollar, give them a dime or a dollar. It'll come back to you, I promise.
Yes.
Every time.
Right? So we have to be more community oriented as well. Yes.
I'm new to the area, so I'm just curious, is there an organization that helps like black entrepreneurs, like up-and-coming black entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
I think that led to role as well. The business owners, like the owners of the store, they don't live in the area, and they're disrespectful to people.
Right.
Because they feel like, they doing us a favor.
So I can't go into too much detail because it would be a conflict of interest. But I don't know if you all have driven past Angela Mill. You see this big sign that says Future Home of the East Cleveland
Yes.
Growth Association. That's us.
Okay.
And that's what we do. We can't talk about it in this forum because it's political.
Again, I'm new to the area.
But I'm going to give you a card, and then I want you to call me, and we'll have a discussion about that. All right? But that's important, right? And the other thing is, to your point, is to make sure that the business owners here have an investment in the city. All right, they don't have to live in the city, but their business is in the city. They make money off the city. They need to be invested in the
They
city.
don't care, man.
And they need to care, right? And like they need to contribute to more than just, opening their doors at opening time and closing their doors at closing time, right?
Making money off of people.
Right. But at the same time, we need to do things to make sure they stay. Like GE. That's a global brand.
Yes.
That's the only one we have. We can't let that get away. So we have to be willing to provide incentives for people to stay as well, right? So it's a partnership, right? They give a little, we give a little.
So why they complain about the pollution?
Why who?
GE and all them and the people, and it's right there for us.
What pollution?
All the smoke and everything's coming out the place and stuff like that.
Well, their factory's not operational, so I'm not sure what you're referring to because they're not.
All the smoke and the pollution coming out the building.
Of GE?
Yes.
Their operations are shut down. They don't do that anymore there.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be any smoke or anything coming out of their buildings like that anymore, right? Because they're mostly their business offices. Plus, the GE doesn't really own that building anymore. That building is owned by a company named Savant. They just kept the name.
Okay.
If you look at the sign, it says GE Lighting, a Savant company.
Right.
Right? So, but still, and I'll tell you why it was smart of them not to change the name, because GE is a global brand. If I say Savant, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But if I say GE, you immediately know what I'm talking about. So it was smart for them. And it's smart for us to make sure they don't leave, because we need an anchor. And then we need to bring other businesses like that into East Cleveland. We need a grocery store.
Yes.
East Cleveland used to support 3 grocery stores.
Homies.
No, I'm not even talking about those. There used to be a Pick and Pay, an A&P,
Yes.
and a Buy Right. And then there were some
Save
little
More.
regional stores, Hayden, Save More, Bondi's, and other stores, right? So it's not like we won't spend our money in there. We gotta have a place to spend money.
But reason why they closing it down, because they stealing everything from the stores.
Well, but
You
see,
know-
but that's a different argument, right? Because now if they're stealing and we're seeing it and we're not telling, then we can't complain when the store closes. Right? So we gotta tell. We gotta get out of that mindset around, protecting the hood, right? Protecting, not snitching and all that kind of stuff, right? And because that may be a noble mentality, right?
Right.
But that only serves the person who's getting away with the crime.
Right.
That does nothing to serve you or the community. So why bother? And if they're in jail, they can't get to you. The only way they can keep threatening you is if they're not in jail.
Yes.
If they're in jail, they can't threaten you no more. And I guarantee you, their boys ain't gonna do their time for them coming back and getting you after they get locked up. All right. So we got to be smart about that, right? So we got to understand our role in solving our own problems, right? So we got to get stores in here that we need. But listen, I'm not talking about just like the local stores and corner stores and the dollar stores and stuff like that. I mean, look, we shop at Dillard's or whatever department stores are, right? We go up to Beechwood Mall. Why can't we have some of those stores? I look around all the other areas and I see development happening. I don't see that here. Why not? We got people with jobs. So
No money.
well, there is money here. We just don't spend it here
Right.
because there's no place to spend it here. We got to put the things here, and that's part of infrastructure too. You got to have places for people to shop. One of the things we want to do is kind of set up different regions in the area. We want a bank. We want a hotel and fine dining district. We want a business district. We want a new city hall and city center.
Yes.
We got to get all that stuff.
Jail.
Yes.
What do you think is the solution to say, I don't want to say protecting those who have, kind of made something of themselves, got a little money in their pocket. A lot of them are afraid to come to East Cleveland.
Yes.
Or stay in East Cleveland because of the fear of being robbed, people taking money from them. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because it looks like you got a little something you want to take from you. So, like, what do you tell those people who want to actually come to the city, build it up, and make it what it used to be?
That's a perfect segue, right? Because part of what you need to do to entice business is make sure that they're going to feel safe when they get here, right? And so there needs to be a regular police patrol around business districts
Yes.
and in businesses.
Because not to cut you off, but I talked to a police officer firsthand. He said it was 5 people. That one night it was only 5 police officers on duty.
Right.
The whole city of East Cleveland.
That's right, and we've got to change that. We've got to get police officers who are invested in the city. We also have to get police officers who reflect the community, right? We can't be, all the leadership in the police force, they don't look like us.
Right.
That's a problem, right? That's a problem. That's got to change, right? The police force, the safety forces must reflect the community that they serve. Not just from the lowest level of service, but to the highest level of service. It's got to reflect the community it serves, yes.
And not even based on how they look. You know what I'm saying? Because just because you're black or whatever, like you can be white coming from East Cleveland with no money. And like I don't know anybody else's kind of path of life, but sometimes I've had white people be nicer than me than
Yes.
black people.
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
what's that about?
Yes.
Well, but you get that, right? And that's something that you can't really legislate. What you do is you change the attitude of the community, right? So that the community doesn't tolerate that kind of person. I have a book at home, and it's from, I believe, 1965 or maybe in the 50s, 62. And it's a book from East Cleveland for East Clevelanders. And it lays out all of the rules that East Clevelanders agreed to live by in their community. They said, if you don't live in our community under these rules, you will not live in our community. And that's what we got to say, right? We got to demand more from our community. People come into our community, they go and they commit crimes in other communities,
Yes.
Then they come to our community. You know why? Because nobody's going to tell.
Right.
Right? And then when they commit a crime in our community, we don't tell that either. So some of that is on us, right? And to her point, right? Now we've got to be afraid to expose our success because somebody will knock us in the head.
Yes.
We got to change that. We got to have street lights, right? Our city lights make you feel safe. That's not the only thing that makes you feel safe, but that makes you feel safe. A strong police force makes you feel safe.
Yes.
When I was growing up, people didn't come to East Cleveland and do dirt.
Right.
Because they knew you wasn't going to get out of East Cleveland because the cops were going to be on you.
Yes.
They didn't play. Now, listen, I lived on Beersford. I lived across the street from the police station. So I saw some stuff, so I'm not telling you that they were all, friendly and all that back then either. But I'm saying it was a different attitude.
Yes. Yes.
And it was a partnership because when we called the police, they came. But then when they came, we gave them the information that they needed to be able to move forward with an investigation or what have you, right? So we can't call the police and then not be prepared to give them any information that helps them move the investigation forward, right? Because now we're not doing anything to help ourselves, right? So that's critical. We got to help ourselves, right? So there it is, right? There's infrastructure, right? There's economic growth and development, and then there's the safety forces, and realizing safety forces doesn't just mean police, right? Because every time you call the police, it doesn't mean you need the police.
Right.
And so our police force has to be smart enough to understand what's needed and when. If it's a mental health issue, we need the police and somebody with mental health.
Well, see, the police, in my opinion, I think that's, if you're a police officer, you're coming in contact with whoever. So you should have some type of psychology training if you're a police officer.
You should, right? But how much psychology training could you give them to make them effective as somebody who has a degree in psychology who works regularly, right? Something's going to give, right? If we tried to make the police be proficient in everything that they could possibly encounter, then what happens is they don't become that proficient in police work. What we have to do is create support services and support systems that support the police officers, so that there are officers on the police force who specialize in mental health. There are officers on the police force who specialize in drug addiction. There are officers on the police force who specialize in domestic situations, right? Because all those things don't necessarily require the force of a police officer, and we can't always depend on the police officer knowing how to handle that situation, nor, really should we, right?
You make a real good point. I actually had a long conversation with a police officer. Because I do have a bachelor's in psychology, and he was telling me that I should go into forensics. Like, I won't necessarily have
That'd
to
be a good thing.
I won't have to be on the streets, but I could be in the office helping them navigate, because I'm into psychology.
Well,
Let me tell you something.
There should be a community response force beyond the police.
And there will
Because
be.
every problem that we encounter in our daily lives is not a police problem.
Exactly.
What we have been taught and what we have been guided to do is call the police for everything.
What's the other
And
thing?
when they respond as law enforcement officers.
Right. The first thing they're going to try to do is identify whether or not a crime has been
Right.
committed.
Every problem that we encounter in our daily lives, in our community, is not a law enforcement
And
problem.
to be honest, this may be going on a totally different tangent, but
There's no tangent. You say whatever you want.
I don't believe
We understand.
But you know what? Okay. So the extreme, the position, right, may be subject to debate. But your point is not, right? Your point is valid. And the point is, we don't trust the police, right? We see the police as a force necessarily against us, not to serve us. And quite honestly, they don't see themselves as a force to serve us.
But see, that's why it was formed. The police force wasn't formed until they stopped and they stopped owning us and let us free, and then they started.
Right.
Well, you know what? That's a misnomer. That's not true, right? Because there were police forces. There were police forces in England
Oh, for real? See, I don't know about
when they came over here, right? There were police forces. There were tax agents. There were all those things. Our government, the foundation of our government is the British's foundation, because that's all they knew to begin with, right? So their structure is similar to the British structure, and then they provided themselves with the freedoms that they felt that they were lacking. But police didn't come about as a result of slavery, nor did they come about to only police slaves. And we've got to get out of that kind of thinking, because it's just not true. Go ahead,
To
brother.
your point, though, why I always hear East Cleveland police say they don't like this building, they don't come here unless something really happened? Why do they say that?
Well, I don't know why they say that, but it shouldn't matter. Their personal feelings about a building should have absolutely nothing to do with their ability to do their job. And that's part and parcel of police not having any real ownership in the community, any real part of the community, right? They don't feel, look, those people, and I don't care whether they're black or white, they come into our community, they do their shift, and then they leave. And let me tell you another thing about it while we're talking about it, right? Go ahead.
Because I want to know, because when people teach me something, I want to go look it up.
Right.
As far as what you just taught me about policing and stuff, how can I go and look that up and research myself?
Just do a Google search on the history of police.
Okay. I thought I knew, like in my Black Studies course, that's what I was taught, but apparently it's not.
But it's not true. It's just not completely true.
Okay.
Right.
Right? There were different police forces, like the slave catchers, right? The slave catchers was a police force that was stood up just to get runaway slaves. But I think the other thing we need to understand, and I don't want to go too far into this, is that the first slaves weren't black. They were white. They were called indentured servants, and they had to serve a period of time under a master.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And what happened was they were tired of, after 7-year periods or so, having to go find another indentured servant. So they needed a way to continually perpetuate these servants. And so now they go over to Africa, they bring back the Africans, and then they also breed them, right? So they can continue to produce more farm hands, more field hands, more people to raise their own babies, things like that, right?
Like let you go on with, speaking to us and everything. I'm gonna let you go on, but would it be safe to say, like, yeah, they had the indentured servants who were white and all that sort of thing, and they were serving, but it seemed like when it got to the Africans, they went to a whole other level.
Well, they did, because they didn't.
Humanizing.
Well, they did, because they didn't have to go play by the same rules. There were periods of time when there were black slaves on the plantation along with the indentured servants. And in fact, the first, what were they? The overseers. The first overseers were indentured servants, right? So when the black people, when the slaves came and they didn't have to do, the white people didn't have to do the field work anymore, they then became the police force, right? They became the overseers.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so it's more to the stories than we tell, right? And so we just got to dig a little deeper. But the bottom line is, we need a police force that's more indicative of the community it serves, and we need to feel safe. And so we need to provide incentives for police officers to stay in the city, right? So we've got to say to police officers, if you live in the city, we will provide this for you or that for you, right? And we want you to stay in the city at least 5 years. And we'll say the same thing like to new businesses. We've got to have an open market. We've got to be more welcoming to businesses that want to come. into the city. And we got to say, hey, if you come here with a good business idea and you come here and you have an opportunity for people to get jobs and spend money fairly, then we will support you.
Yes.
And we will roll out the red carpet for you. The other thing we need to do, which is specific to you all, is we've got to demand better from these companies that manage these buildings. And there's got to be
How?
easy. If you don't pay the rent, do they have things legally that they can do to you?
Yes.
It's the same
They
way.
can kick
When
you
you
out.
sign that lease is a contract. And they are obliged, as part of that contract, just like you are. There are services that they're required to provide. And you all, as a building, can organize and get them to do it. And as mayor, I will support that. I will actually present legislation to council
They don't care though.
to hold sanctions against property owners, building management companies that don't take care of their buildings.
My situation, same thing. I've been here 8 years. I haven't paid rent once. I went to court on the 25th of last month, and they kicked me out because I ain't paid rent. I don't pay rent. I don't get disability. You know, my rent was $300. I haven't paid rent in 7 years. So I got to move by Father's Day. They kicked me out.
Okay, but I'm not understanding what your complaint is.
My complaint is what your point was made. They got to do better for us.
Well, why didn't you pay rent for 7
I
years?
didn't have to pay rent.
Because
I don't get disability. That's their policy. If you don't get disability or a check, you pay $25 or you sign something.
If you got income, they pay 3%. They
Right.
oh, so somebody else fixed. So it's some kind of voucher program.
It's
Yes.
subsidized.
It's
It's
HUD.
sub- oh, okay, it's a HUD subsidy. And so they're blaming you because HUD didn't pay.
Over 20
Yeah.
people.
Yes.
20 people gotta leave.
Yes.
20 people got to leave
Yes.
because HUD didn't pay,
Yes.
and now they're blaming you.
Yes.
And what does the city say about that?
What can they say?
We don't know. They don't talk to us.
They should be able to say something.
Nobody come here, man. What point we trying to make?
Even if some of the older folks go to
Yes.
City Hall and make a complaint, they still won't come.
A lot of people been here for 20, 30
They
years.
write this building off.
Right. What I was telling
This
you.
is the only one they treat like this. Everybody else is cool, including the ones up on Needlegrass.
Let me look into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got that on film, so let me look into that because that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That doesn't
And
make any
that's
sense.
exactly what they're doing.
Yes, they care more about the money and the workers in there working every day. We have to go down the stairs when they're using the elevator. Some people can't go down the stairs.
And what's interesting is when they finish the repairs, they're probably gonna raise your rent.
Exactly.
Yeah, they trying.
Exactly.
They trying at the beginning of the year. They're supposed to raise it.
See, so you can't just be arbitrary like that, right? There are laws in place where building people can building managers and property owners can raise the rent. But there's no way they should be allowed to raise the rent if the basic services are not being provided.
They don't even have a service court. They got a service coordinator, but they do not have a library for them.
Nothing.
They don't have no. They don't have any games or anything.
Nothing.
They don't do anything for I see this. Some people have physical limitations. How are they for that? Is it wheelchair accessible and all of that?
They don't care.
They just now designed apartments for wheelchair.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
But they put wheelchair accessible people on all floors instead
Yes.
of keep them
So
on
they'll
the
just keep them on the floor. They just move them around wherever
Yeah.
instead of just designating the floor where they can all have the same level of service that they need.
There's a lot of people on the 12th floor that's in a wheelchair that can't go down the stairs.
And if the elevator breaks, they're in all kind of trouble.
Yeah,
So
they
how
did
often does the
it.
elevator break?
They redid them when they redid the building.
Okay.
This is the first time ever.
So now you got good
We
elevators
got good
finally.
elevator service
Yes.
finally.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally.
Okay.
They did put a little money in it to redo it, but it was more like a Band-Aid.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes these subsidized buildings get money to make repairs, and they have to make repairs in order to keep their money, right? And in those instances, they do just the bare minimum,
And
right?
they
They do
did.
just enough
They did.
to keep their funding.
They did.
So
Just
so
enough.
that's got to change, right? Not only does does their behavior have to change? The level of just enough needs to change.
Yes.
Right? Because life has changed. People have changed, right? Family structures have changed. So, times have changed. So we've got to change with them. We can't continue to believe that the things that worked for folks 20 years ago even
Works for us.
work for people today. Because it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. Even looking at seniors, a senior today is not the same senior that was a senior when I was growing up.
Right.
And so some seniors are more active today. And so you got to give them, like Miss Fitz over there, right? She all up and down the community.
She be gone.
Yeah. And so, but you got to give them something to do. You got Miss Fitz has something to do because she's always helping somebody.
And the ones here don't have nothing to do.
But some people just want to socialize. They just want to meet. They just want to congregate. I remember when older gentlemen would just go up to Mr. Donuts when they started serving breakfast, and they would just sit there and talk.
I love it.
And they go to McDonald's on Eddie Road, and they just sit there and talk.
And drink their coffee.
But
That's
listen,
how we grew
And if you
up.
listened, you would learn a lot.
But listen though, they really don't care nothing about us. You know why? If you ask them for something to eat or something to drink, I was hungry yesterday. I didn't get nothing to eat from none of them business. I begged them, okay? I begged them for something to eat. They throw their food away. They didn't give me nothing.
And there are a couple of things you got to look at, right? We've got to do better about being able to provide services for people in
It
need.
don't make no sense. man.
But the other thing is you have to understand that the employees have rules that they have to abide by. And one of those rules is they can't give away
It
food.
wasn't the employees, it's the owners was there.
Well, are you sure it was the owner or
Yes,
manager?
it's the owner.
Okay. But then, that's another thing that's really hard to legislate because you can't really make someone
Right.
give away their
Right,
money.
right.
But there should be places in the community where people can go get emergency help like that.
Not every day, all day is certain.
Well, but then,
Salvation Army.
but listen, but the
Churches.
people have to have some responsibility to it too, right?
Yes.
So if you know you're gonna need a meal today, and I'm serving meals at these locations from these times, you gotta make it a point if you can to get there. If you can't get there, we gotta be able to provide the
Right.
ability for some people to get there,
Right.
right? Because that's part of it too, right? If you give away things and you don't give anybody the ability to get to it, you may as well not give it away.
Right.
But like you were saying, it starts with people, you understand, like, I don't have much, but I try to help when I can.
Yes.
You can't help everybody. You gotta help yourself. You
Right.
understand? Like, I graduated from college. Nobody helped me. Did that on my own. Like, people helped me along the way, but for real, I had to put that addiction. I had to get up every day.
Yes.
Like, I had to get up every day and work my third shift job. You know what I'm saying? So,
And that's real, right?
don't be looking for people to be passing stuff out to you because they ain't had nothing passed out to them. And it's not about being bitter. It's just being about, pulling yourself up.
Oh man.
And it's not
Fanny's
about,
his grandma.
And it's,
Come see what his grandma is.
and it's not about
Yes.
getting yours and then forgetting where you come from.
Yeah.
It's about, showing people how you got what you got and helping them build themselves up and having somebody want to build themselves up so they won't have to ask them to take provide for themselves.
Yeah. So let's get this. This is Fannie Lewis's grandson, everybody.
Yes.
Oh, hey!
And that was a great woman. This is Fannie Lewis's grandson.
Yes.
Cause look.
Okay.
When
So
I had my door, the door is locked now. They locked now. So I called the police, the fire, they didn't come.
Right.
So I had to get in my house, right? So I got in. They said I got to pay $1,600.
They had emergency people that come, but they get so many calls from this building, they won't answer the phone.
listen.
My point on
These
this-
buildings need to have one apartment for somebody that's a building manager or super that can service the building during off hours. It is ridiculous to have these many tenants living someplace without 24-hour support.
That's irrelevant, man, because it's not going to happen.
But it's not irrelevant.
It's
It
not
can
gonna
happen.
happen.
See, but you know what? If that's the attitude,
We here.
Wait, well, you're here today.
When y'all leave,
Wait, listen.
it's going to be the same stuff,
Well, see,
man.
Well then, brother, you may as well just not come outside, if that's what you believe, right?
Well,
Because if every time somebody tries to do something for you, you tell them it ain't gonna help, at the point they're gonna stop trying.
No.
And that's kind of what I wanted to get to, right? Because that's what I wanted to kind of wrap up with, right? The part of the reason is that people believe we are apathetic. And I don't know if you know what apathy or apathetic means,
What
but
is?
basically what that says is we don't care. We take whatever is given to us, right? Like with the last election. Republican, Democrat, I don't care. Whoever the president, ain't none of them gonna help me anyway, so I don't care, right? And that's what we do, right? And then when we feel apathetic, the way we punish the establishment is by not voting at all. So we say, I'm gonna show you, I'm not gonna vote. But every time you choose not to vote, that's a vote for the person that you don't want to win.
Right, right.
So even if you don't vote for me, and I want you to, I really want you to, because I really want to be your mayor.
alright.
I want you to vote. I want you to participate. And when I win, I don't want to lose touch with you.
Yeah.
I want you to know that you'll be able to talk to me
Thank you.
just the way that you're talking to me now. And I will be back, right? And the next time we'll do barbecue.
Thank you.
All right, we'll come out here, we'll cook a little barbecue, and we'll talk a little more,
Yes, baby.
play a little music, and we'll get to know each other a little better.
Come back to the office Monday morning.
Well, I gotta go to work. I got a regular job, so I gotta go to work Monday morning. I gotta go to work Monday morning, but I will be
I'm
back.
gonna tell him.
Tell him.
I'm gonna
You
tell
all
him.
tell him. Give him my card. Tell him what I said.
They
Tell
get mad
him.
at
Listen.
me.
You want to tell your
They get
management
mad at
company
me because I
something?
tell them.
You tell them that if Sean Warren is elected mayor of East Cleveland, they will be held accountable for the poor service they
Yes.
provide for the people that live at this building and all the buildings in similar
They care?
situations.
You think they gonna care? No.
We're gonna make them care.
As soon as you leave,
As
they
soon
doing the same
as
stuff.
no, we're not gonna leave. We're gonna.
We do.
Right. Y'all gotta tell them.
We do.
I know, I think it was.
I'm tired of
We
waiting
definitely
about
do.
because they not listening. They not gonna do anything. They not gonna do anything for us.
Yeah, don't nobody.
Like I said, you gotta go up. You can't go to Manfred. You go to the federal
Yeah, that's great,
government.
right.
They own this.
Straight
They
to the
don't
top.
know. So if you keep going this way, it's the same thing. It's called insanity.
Right.
What you do is go up.
Amen.
That's what you do. You
And that's
don't
what you gotta do, right? We gotta keep on. And if you don't get a response from the management, you don't get a response from the city government, you go to the county, you go to the state. Absolutely.
I'm one of the rarely college-educated people in this building, and we do all of that. I done talked to corporate, I done talked to the news, I done talked to HUD, I done talked to the people that organize this building, and it's not gonna stick unless the people in power start backing it.
And that's what, and that's the point, right? That's the point, right? And so you say, what can I do? I can hit their pockets.
Yes.
I can send inspectors in here.
Yes.
Please.
And I
Yes.
promise you
Yes.
that once their pockets start thinning out,
Yes.
they will do it. Because it's going to cost more to see me
We've been without pay
than it will to
security
see the contract.
for almost 2 months.
Yes.
And everybody has complained about it.
But
All of it.
and I'm telling you, if listen, if all they got to do is keep putting another pacifier in your mouth, then they will. But there are a lot of things that are wrong, and they're not just visible things, right? It's service. There's security concerns. People, not coming up here is not an option. This people live here. You know, if you call Grubhub or somebody for delivery, you shouldn't be concerned that somebody ain't gonna want to come up here because they're scared.
Ain't nobody scared.
Somebody's scared. I don't know who, but somebody's
It
scared.
actually happens like especially when you're trying to get lifts.
But the other thing is too that y'all got to protect the people that come up here, right? If robberies and crimes are happening in the parking lot, y'all got to tell when y'all see that.
Well, you have me and my daughters and the little guy kids I have this building.
So listen, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna ask for any final questions. Then we're gonna have somebody come up here and say a quick prayer. Well, you can pray as long as you like. And have somebody come up here and say a prayer, and then we're gonna turn over turn it over and let you guys go get some food. So, any questions? Okay.
I'm sorry, but I mean, you here.
That's what I'm here for.
I'm here trying to get to know you.
That's what's up.
So, like, I mean, do you need any support, like, as far as helping with your campaign?
Yes, I do. This Miss Fitz is one of our campaign coordinators.
I can sit down.
Curtis is our campaign manager.
That's all right.
You got my phone number on that card. That is my number. You call it and I'll answer that. Right? I may not be able to answer right away because, like I said, I got a regular job, but I will get to it. That day, not later.
You'll get a call from one of us the same.
Right, the same day.
You're not gonna put us on hold like everybody else.
Nah, brother, I'm gonna talk to you.
Nope. Nope.
I'm gonna talk to you.
Too many people to do that.
Right.
All right. So, anybody want to lead us in prayer?
Miss Fitz,
Miss Fitz.
handle that.
This building needs.
Sean.
This building needs.